And believe me, there are just as many divisions on that line, on the line of quality in Christianity as there are for Muslims. How many of us know that Hitler was Christian? Hitler was a Christian, an avowed Christian. Just because there was a man named Hitler who committed the terrible atrocities and evils against a people that was weak in his country and weak before him, he had the power to inflict evils on them. Just because that man, Hitler, did those things and was a Christian, should that be cause for us to now look unfavorably upon Christianity? No, we can't look unfavorably on Christianity because there's a Hitler in the history of the Christians. And we can't look unfavorably on the Jew because there's a Zionist militarist, expansionist war machine in the Middle East called Israel. We can't look unfavorably on the Jew because of what the Israelites or the Israelis have done in the Middle East. They have committed great evils, great atrocities. They have brutalized the weak and helpless people with the great arms that they have been able to get from America and the great strength and support that they have gotten from our nation. They have used it unwisely. They have used it savagely against unarmed and weak people. They have put them out of their homes, into camps, into prison camps. But should we now look unfavorably upon Jews because of the behavior of the Zionists? No. The Jew is to be respected for his merits. The Jew is to be respected for his merits. And if some of his people behave unseemly, we are not to judge all of them by the behavior of the radical among them. That's my position. And I don't beg anybody to join me. God is company enough for me, but I wish we all could be together. Our holy book says, "Qul." Don't get nervous, because I might start directing my complaints at something closer to home. So if you think that made you nervous, please. In our holy book, we are given concepts for our total life needs. And because the human being is such a special vessel made by his Creator for great, great achievement in the spiritual realm and also in the material realm, man cannot move successfully in the path of achievement without a recognition, a proper regard for his Lord. So our holy book attends the need most of all, or first of all, it attends the need in man to rightly perceive his God. Now, when we're talking about perceiving God, we're not talking about seeing God as we see the material reality. We're not talking about seeing God as we see a dog, or as we see a house, or as we see a fine automobile, or as we see the mansion that we would like to live in. No, we are not talking about God and seeing God in that sense. We are talking about seeing God in the sense that you like to see your father, in the sense that you like to see your mother, in the sense that you like to see your children, in the sense that you like to see your friend. You don't see them in material quantity. You see them in qualities. You see them in their plans, in their scheme, in their purpose. And we must see God in his plan. We must see him in his scheme. We must see him in his purpose. We must see him in his wonderful attributes of mercy, the wonderful perfected attributes of perfection, of kindness, of love, etc., etc. That's how we are supposed to see God, and that's the way we would like to see our loved ones. The Quran gives us first the principle of unity for God. God is one. God is one alone. The Arabic term wahid, one, and ahad, one alone. And God says in his holy book, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, with the name Allah, the gracious, the compassionate, he says, Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Say that he, Allah, is one, alone, one alone. This oneness, if we were to actually elaborate on it, would take up all the time we have here this afternoon and would make volumes, because the learned in our religion, our scholarly imams and professors in this religion, they have produced volumes on the oneness of God. Again, God says on the concept of unity and oneness, كَانَ النَّاسُ أُمَّةً وَاحِدًا. The people were at first one community. One community. So God is telling us, the words of our holy book, that man, though he's divided now into nations on many different lines, he originally was made to be one community. And that if we are to be successful, we are to understand this unity. Because if we don't understand this unity, we will not be able to progress for long as nations or as ethnic groups. There's only so much time on this earth and so much room on this earth for people who take themselves out of the family of man. And again, on this unity, Allah, the Lord of all of us, whether we are Muslims or not, we all believe in the same God. But we see with different eyes. God says, see they not, the disbelievers, the doubters, the skeptics, see they not that the creation is a composite whole? So we believe in the unity of the whole creation. We don't believe that there is some foreign worlds out there somewhere. We don't believe that there is right in this area here another dimension and there are some foreign creatures sharing this space with us. Their nature is not like ours. They can do things to us and we can't reach them unless we find some way to plug into their foreignness. We don't believe it. The real Muslim can't accept that kind of stuff. You can't voodoo us. You can't hex us. We are not vulnerable to superstition. When we live in a world with that kind of recognition of reality, that the great architect of all this vast universe is one, the design bears that out. That one designer did all of this. And when we live with the recognition that since one designer has done all of this, we as little bitty molecules, little bitty small units, smaller than the molecule, in this vast, great, expansive, phenomenal works of God, that we have to accept unity, oneness with everything else. It doesn't mean we're not going to have divisions. It doesn't mean we're not going to dislike each other. It doesn't mean we're not going to be prejudiced against each other. All of that's human nature. Human nature. It's human nature because we have limitations. We are not God. We are not perfect. We are growing. We are not there. And our destiny is not to be God. Our destiny is to be his excellent servant. Not him, but his excellent servant. And we are not even there. So we have many weaknesses. We are frail in many respects, but we have great strength. And we can realize the great life if we realize the great truth first. Charity in our religion is a great necessity for the well-being and good future of the society. Charity. Because as God says, whereas he has created us upon an equality, he has also favored some above others. And there be some of us with greater spirit, greater talents, greater skills. And those will get ahead of the others, and soon the others may find themselves at the mercy of the better achievers, So God wants to sensitize us and keep us in touch with the best of our nature that he's given us. He wants us to keep charity in our spirit, to keep charity in our spirit. So in our religion, we're given the concept of charity. It's closely related to the concept of charity in Christianity, and I would even think maybe perhaps in Judaism. But I know it is very close to the concept of charity for Christians. It starts with the minimum requirement, and it goes to the maximum. And in the maximum margin, a maximum degree of the exercise of charity, we have to be prepared to share our wealth, share our money, share our homes to those who are out of doors, share our homes with them. We have to be willing to give up a lot of that we hold private and dear for the benefit of those that are shut out. But in our religion, charity is a means for improving society. It is not an end condition. At some time in your life, you should want to get off the charity road. Zakat in our religion, according to the teachings of the Quran, the Holy Book, which is the number one, the supreme source of information for Muslims. And according to the great work, also in accordance with the great work of the scholars of our religion, Ibn Taymiyyah and many others. Zakat, the role of zakat in society is to relieve the pressures on the less fortunate by taking a percentage of the income, the annual income, from those more fortunate or from those who have opportunity. The figure arrived at by most writers and teachers on the subject of zakat or charity in Islam or in al-Islam, our religion, is 2.5% taken on your annual holdings. This is not an income tax. This tax does not come off of income, off of your wages, that is. It is not taken off your wages. It is taken off of your accumulated wealth. And whatever you accumulated is considered accumulated wealth. If you have an automobile, under this particular concept or ruling, your automobile is accumulated wealth. If you have a garden, your garden is accumulated wealth. Farm, agricultural animals, accumulated wealth. Money in the bank, accumulated wealth. So the range of accumulated wealth under the term zakat is very wide. And we are to give 2.5% on that. 2.5% on that. That's not the only way that the Muslim society survives economically or financially. There's also sadaqah. And there's a great range for sadaqah. We have sadaqah al-Eid on the two great Eids, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, the bigger Eid or the greater Eid. We have sadaqah, that is charity, another term for charity that we give on those days, on those great days. And that charity is expected from everyone, the poor as well as those who are in a better situation. Many times we don't have much to give, but the spirit of the charity is what's important for human society. And every man, every woman needs the spirit of charity in their lives in order for them to feel healthy and be healthy and meet the great challenges of life. For if you do not have charity in your heart, you can't meet the challenges of life. Zakat, then, is more than just that 2% tax. It is also free gift that you give freely. We believe in that kind of tax. Also, sadaqah is for many other things and is taken from the rich as well as the poor. For we have to finance important new projects. We have to finance the defenses of our home if we are Muslim, independent Muslim nations. We have to finance the defense of our homeland. Therefore, there are other forms of tax, other forms of revenue, but in our religion, it is all charity. It is all charity. The role of zakat, returning to the role of zakat is to improve the social life for the less fortunate, to help them, to have the necessities of life, the basic necessities of life: food, clothing, shelter, education, a chance to free themselves from that situation and establish themselves one day. As we say over here in the colleges and universities of our people, what a mind, the mind of man, what a terrible thing to waste. And it is better to teach one to fish than to give him a fish. Moving now along, and I hope I'll be able to cover this in the time allotted. If I don't, I promise you, we will print this, we will put this in print and make it available to you at a reasonable price, $50 per copy. That was to move you up to higher performance. Our holy book on personal responsibility. And these concerns are very precious. The concerns that I'm now on are very precious to the life and real aspirations of the healthy American people. Now, I hope you took note of how I worded that. Personal responsibility. God says to us in our holy book, alaykum anfusakum, alaykum anfusakum. You are obligated by your own self. Your own self obligates you. You are responsible to your own self. And again, repeating that the phrase from Quran on struggle, Jahadu fi sabilillahi bi amwalikum wa anfusakum, and struggle in the path of God with your very selves, your very souls, with your wealth and your very selves, your very souls. So we have a responsibility to ourselves. Our own self, our soul, and our own personal, private life obligates us. Why does God have to tell us that? Do we need a revelation? Do we need that great, unusual kind of experience? Just to get us to accept responsibility to take care of ourselves? Well, if you think of the neglect, the personal neglect in the world today, if you take account of the personal neglect in the individual life of persons today who abuse themselves with crazy physical habits, who abuse themselves with drugs, liquors, who abuse themselves by not even remembering to brush their teeth daily, or to keep up the proper hygiene, risk terrible illnesses that are many times terminal for them. If you consider the behavior of the people today, especially in the big cities, toward themselves, the great degree of self-neglect, you will understand why God has to tell us, hey, your own self obligates you. See, when we little folks down here, when we tell somebody something, it doesn't have the impact. It doesn't have the force. It doesn't hit them as it does when somebody way up there tells them. That's why the networks, the media, can control the spirit of the African American better than any of our leaders single-handedly or together. Well, thank God. Thank Allah that there's always a number of us saved by the grace of God to keep struggling in the path, to keep fighting for the precious life of our people. Yes. So God tells us our own selves obligate us. When God tells us that, if we believe in God, the trendy atmosphere of America in terms of what it puts out here in the form of cultural sensitizers and cultural signals, not blaming any particular person in any particular quarter of American society for it at this particular time, but it happens. No matter what. No matter what it puts out here in the air to suppress my best motives, if I believe truly in my religion, and I believe truly that Allah has all the power, that He is the supreme, and He says to me, Wallace, don't forget your obligations to yourself. No matter what the atmosphere says, no matter what the environment is saying, God is bigger than the environment. He made the environment. So when God says it to me, I hear Him. You see how important it is? You see how important it is to believe in a God? Because when you believe in God, you have the power to meet any oppressor. You have the power to meet any opposition when you have God. And that's why Satan, the worst of the oppressors, never wants us to have God. It blocks him out. It cuts him out of the business. The Quran again on community responsibility. God says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold firmly to the cable that God extends out to you for your salvation, for your unity. Hold on to the help that God extends out to you. And do not be divided among yourselves. We have a community obligation to hold on to the Quran, the Word of God, to hold on to Muhammad the Prophet, the last and universal liberator from God, to hold on to him and his pattern of life, his sunnah. We have an obligation to hold on to that, and we have an obligation to hold on to each other. For God has extended his help that we may be united. United against the forces of Satan. And Satan's schemes are divisive. He can break the unity of everybody except those who are united under God. And again, God says, they yad'una ila al-khayr. The believers, the real believers, they are the ones who call to all that is good and excellent. They call to that has good utility for man and society. They call only to that Allah, their Lord, has approved. Yet they ya'muruna bil ma'ruf. Also, ya'muruna bil ma'ruf. Ya'muruna bil ma'ruf. And they command, they order, they insist upon that is of the most excellent standards. وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. And they prohibit that. They disallow that is defective, degrading, corruptible. And then God says on the community responsibility, because those are our responsibilities. Muslims are responsible to be not pacifists. We are responsible to be active. Not activists in the fanatical sense, in the radical sense, but activists in the sober, positive sense. We are not supposed to be sitting at home, levitating or vegetating while the great things and opportunities and wealth of the world pass us by and leave us under. No, we should never be an underclass. Once the Muslim knows the class of his religion, he cannot accept to be an underclass. And God says, Antum khayra ummatan ukhrijat linnas. God says to the Muslim, after he revealed and made his favor complete on us, perfected his religion, made his favor complete on us, he says, after he has guided Muhammad into the full vision of the Islamic society, the society for all people, if they understand, after you've done that, he says to us, you are the best of the communities, brought out for the good of all people. So the Muslim community then has also a community obligation to serve the best purposes of other communities. Christian community, Jewish community, socialist community. Yes, even a socialist community. The Muslim is obligated to recognize his responsibility to all the communities of man. And while he is promoting his own cause, he cannot forget that in promoting his own cause, he has to have a healthy regard for the destiny of other people and contribute also to their worthwhile, noble endeavors. To support them, to compliment them, to congratulate them, to feel happy about the progress of people who are not in your religion. This is healthy for anybody, and it's an obligation for us. Our holy book on race value first of all of the precepts, formulas, prescription, whatever we want to call it, in our holy book for our life moves most of all on the principle and in the line of peace. The nature and aim in our religion for all of our activities is peace. Therefore, we have no radical preachings in our Quran on race. There are no radical teachings in our holy book on race. It just comes to us with the sober truth, the sober and sobering truth. You all descended from one ancestor, and he was made from dust. So our religion first humbles us. It doesn't preach to our arrogance. It doesn't preach to our exaggerated pride, flattering us with compliments, with racial compliments or ethnic compliments. No, it first sobers us. It first humbles us. So you may be big now, but you weren't big when God had you in his hand for the first time. You were something too small to be mentioned, according to the word of God. You all descended from your first ancestor, and he was made from dust. And again it says, it is Allah that has created your forms and has made your forms beautiful. It's not saying this in any demagogic way. You know, the demagogue, he wants to flatter you. The demagogue, he wants to flatter you. He wants to make you feel good. The demagogue wants to first make you like him. But Allah is too big for that. Allah is too big to come at you in that inferior way. God comes at us to strengthen us. God says, it is Allah that has created your forms and has made your forms beautiful. Now, when I hear that from my Lord, when I read that in the Holy Book coming from my Lord, you know, we have to speak of him sometime in these allegorical pictures. When I hear that coming from his mouth, ain't nothing you can tell me to disparage me, to make me feel inferior, or to make me think nappy hair is ugly, or wide nose is ugly, or black skin is ugly, or thick lips are ugly. You can't tell me that after I read my Lord's. I believe in my Lord. And I heard him say, I made your forms and I made your forms beautiful. Now what can anybody else tell me behind God? Not if I believe in him. They are through. They are through manipulating my ego. They are through. They are out of business. You know why Muslims don't clap like? It sounds like bird wings taking off. See? You ever see a bunch of pigeons? You ever hear a bunch of pigeons take off? Sound like leaves too in the breeze. Sound like tree leaves. The leaves of the trees flapping in the breeze. See, that's why we don't clap. We more stable than that. Now, hey, now don't take that too far, because you can become so rigid that you'll be dead. And again, God says, certainly the human mold. The human mold. What is God talking about? The human mold. God is bringing to our awareness that he has patterned us. We are his fine product, and he has patterned us. And nobody else has any claim to that pattern. They can't even produce another one. He has exclusive pattern on our nature and form. And God says that he has certainly the human being is given to the best of mold, or has been made in the most excellent mold. He has been molded for excellence. That's the purpose of the mold. He has been molded for excellence. And God says, Khairakum atqakum. Surely God has made you tribes and families. He made you into tribes and into nations, families and nations, that you may regard one another. Isn't that wonderful? Now, I'm a Muslim. If another Muslim is dissatisfied with me because I say, no matter what some white people or most white people have done to us that have made us see them as devils, my holy book says that all people are the same. So I must believe that there is a possibility in me for becoming a devil. And thank God it wasn't me. But I have to recognize, I have to regard those people of that race that are not in any kind of behavioral form that would justify us calling them devils. I have to recognize them. I have to have proper regard for all people. Not only proper regard for all people, but we have that proper regard for them in the sense that God gives it to us, obligates us to seek an acquaintance with them, because this earth was not made to separate man. This earth was made to unite man. And in time, his aspirations, his investments, his venturous spirit is going to carry him all over the world. He's going to have to meet his fellow man overseas in the far lands, in Asia, in Europe, in Africa, wherever they are, he's going to have to meet them. And in time, he will find that he cannot progress further without their assistance, without their permitting it, without their allowing it, without peace treaties, without place for cooperation. So God has told us these things, and he's given us this healthy respect that we must have for each other. The purpose of this regard is not only that we respect each other's rights and that, et cetera, but that we respect that we have to coexist. And we should get acquainted with each other. Because if we don't